All right. Well, pivoting off of the strictly sports betting world and moving a little bit into some daily fantasy stuff. I know I play on DraftKings, you play on FanDuel, a lot of similarities, but also a lot of differences. I think we're both going to be building a lineup. Um, Talk to me a little bit about where your mind's at. I know on FanDuel it's MVP, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and then on DraftKings it's captain, 1.5x the points. If you had to build one lineup, and I know that's really hard because we're probably going to make multiple, but let's pick one lineup. Who do you like as your MVP slash captain?
Yeah, and I guess just taking a step back, like daily fantasy has always kind of been my bread and butter when it comes to like having some action on a game. I would just much always rather I just love the process of building lineups and strategy and leveraging ownership projections, all those types of things. So it is my preferred way to kind of think about a game and go through that thought process.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, like it's this one's pretty simple. I think so many people are gonna stack like Mahomes with Kelsey with this guy with that guy. If they're playing AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, they're gonna be pairing them with Hurts. And so my like initial thought process, like the edge, and we're talking, I guess, milli maker formats. I guess I should ask you that. Is that
Yeah,
kind of what
well,
you're?
I think yeah, well, let's what is your lineup? If you just want to make money, you want to double your money or triple your money. Let's think about a logical lineup. I think the Millie Maker, it's just so hard to I mean you got to get in the territory of like captaining or making like the MVP like Boston Scott, right? To be able to win that $1 million.
Yeah,
Obviously
on
super
DraftKings, yeah.
super unlikely. But I just think this is a slate and specifically on DraftKings where the millionaire maker first place, if you're lucky enough to have that lineup, I think you're going to be holding hands with hundreds, if not thousands of people, because I just think these two teams, the volume and touchdowns go to such a concentrated group that I don't see this game going like completely off script, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I would say that's like an interesting, I would say a unique perspective on this. Like I look at it the opposite.
Okay.
Like to me, last year was the year where it's like the Rams got Cup, and they had Odell at that time.
Yeah.
Outside of that, nobody was really going to score
Yeah. And then the Bengals, it was either Higgins or Chase. Yeah.
or Mixon. Like in this spot, the Eagles have three running backs, and if any of them scored in this game, I wouldn't be surprised.
But
Um,
I mean, do you really think they're running Boston Scott out there in the Super Bowl?
100%.
Okay. All right. Maybe that is
Yeah,
your play in the millionaire maker. Maybe Boston Scott your play then.
no, I'm just saying like he'll be in there.
Yeah. Yeah. All
He's a
right.
veteran. They trust him. Um, again, game script matters a lot. Like, no, I think if they're trailing by a bunch, maybe you don't see as much of all of them.
Yeah.
But if they get up early, um, they're gonna keep those guys fresh and just try to sit on the ball. So I don't know.
Sure. That makes sense on that. Hey, and obviously, you and I both know you build a DraftKings lineup, you build a FanDuel lineup based on the game script you create in your head, right? So you say Patrick Mahomes is going to have a 4 touchdown passing day. All right. Well, then you're playing Travis Kelsey and you're probably playing Tony or MVS or another receiver like McKinnon. Like, so I think you kind of just got to build a game script and then roll with it. So obviously, a Boston Scott, Kenny Gainwell, Sanders game script would be Eagles get up. They just keep pounding it, couple back score. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there's two sides of that though. Um, like I think the way I approach DFS, like even if I'm not playing a milli maker, I still want to come in first place because of the rake and all these different things. Like
Oh yeah.
I'm just not a grind out a min cash guy. That's just not how I play it. Now that's much more volatile, so I can go a month without cashing a single lineup, but
Mm-hmm.
it's also like the way I think about DFS, and this goes a lot of the smart people I've listened to, at this point for years, you know, what do you win when you win? And it's like okay, if this lineup pans out, what am I actually winning? Am I splitting this with 500 people? Well, then
Right.
what's even the point?
Sure.
So it's not it's setting yourself up so that you can capitalize on you when your takes hit and you hit the right game script. Nobody's
Mhm.
gonna fucking sit here and nail every game script of
Right.
NFL Island game. Like it's not gonna happen. But your objective should be like, okay, over the course of an NFL season or a couple seasons, whatever, if I can hit the right game script a couple times a year and I'm building lineups thoughtfully built, like when this happens, these players are the ones
Hmm.
producing in those game scripts. So when you can maximize when you do get it right. Um and I think that again just goes back to the kind of style of handicapper and gambler I am. I like to go higher, like have higher exposure on fewer outcomes, I guess is what I'm saying. Like
Hmm.
some people will sit there and build 20 lineups and like they'll all be kind of different. There'll be very few overlapping players where me, if I'm building 20 lineups on FanDuel, I'm picking 4 players that are in every single one of them and
And that
rotating the
just
pieces around it so that
right.
when that core of 4 hits or that team stack hits,
Hmm.
I have all these different chances because I stacked so many different combinations around it. Whereas
Right. Right.
if
Right.
you only make one stack of that 4 man and you change everything else up, those 4 guys can go off. You could nail your highest conviction, but you had this guy in there with him who was a last click in, who you didn't even really care for that much for that slate, and
Yep.
he takes your lineup.
Yep. Makes
Uh,
total sense to me. We've talked about this all NFL season. We go back and forth
yeah,
all the time, but
and
that point,
I consider and say you had a much more profitable season than I did, but I'm fine with that because I know if I can connect on one of these slates,
it's going to be
like it
big.
won't matter how much I lost because I'll be winning so much more relative to what I'm putting in every day.
Right, yeah, 100%, 100%. So kind of we kind of got off track. We
Yeah,
were talking about
yeah,
more game theory and how to build a lineup, but let's build a lineup. So
right.
you're on FanDuel, I'm on DraftKings. The pricing's a little different. I understand that, but just keeping it in a broad sense. Um, Based on what we were talking about earlier, are you then captaining or making the MVP AJ Brown?
Yeah, so that sorry that yeah, I'm long-winded. I tend to be sometimes some of this stuff, so my bet on that. No, yeah, I would say my favorite kind of stacks are using those the Travis Kelce's, the AJ Browns, the Devontae Smiths, and actually not using them with their quarterback. I just think you're going to be getting so unique. Like that's just such an easy way to get unique is to play AJ Brown and Devontae Smith without Jalen Hurts.
Okay.
Um, again, I'm not saying again if the conversation is hey you have one lineup like single entry we're trying to win, that's not something I'm doing. Um, but if it's like hey 25K up top, you still got to beat 6,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
I'll still do something like that because I'm still getting 2 alpha receivers who can combine for 50 points, and Hurts might just not get there. If the running back steal the red zone touches and he doesn't run one in, the Eagles get out to a big enough lead where he's not throwing for 400 yards, but
Mm-hmm.
he kind of has a 290-yard game, throws 3 touchdowns, but so much of the usage is from those two that you can hit. But that's again strictly kind of theory more so. But
So
yeah,
if you it let's say that game script happens, would you include then Patrick Mahomes in that? Because I'm assuming Mahomes would have to throw a lot to catch up.
yeah, exactly. That's
Okay.
that's the thought process.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely yeah, I know just from playing DFS all season, people hate to do that. They always want to pair the quarterback with the receivers and they're scared to do the opposite because it's illogical, right? But sometimes that does make sense.
Right.
So yeah, I like that. I actually have a lineup pulled up right now that I just kind of threw together, kind of along your lines, but a little different at the same time. I actually made Smith my captain. And then I paired him with Hertz, but then I also found a way to throw in Mahomes and Kelsey in the same lineup. Now, with that, obviously my last two pieces are kind of gross because I just simply don't have salary left. I would have to play Boston Scott and Noah Gray. So that's a little ugly down there at the 5 and 6 spot, but If you told me I can make a lineup that has both quarterbacks, Travis Kelce, and then an Eagles receiver, I'd be pretty happy. I think this is kind of a lineup that I would play just to kind of double or triple my money. I don't think this is like a millionaire maker lineup, but jamming 4 elite guys in one lineup, I think could definitely print some money.
Yeah. No, and this is why I like talking through this stuff with you mainly because we just have completely different approaches. And it's awesome. Like Noah Gray to me is a guy that's just going to be chalky for everything you just said. He makes everything fit.
Right.
You look at the
Yep.
box score numbers. I don't think he played in the last game, but like he gets targets when he's
He
playing.
he
He's
caught
a
a
guy
pass.
that has done it before.
Mm-hmm.
And just from some of the podcasts and stuff I listen to, it just seems like a lot of people are going to be on him, and so that's just a guy that I would never play. But I get why I get the play for 100%.
Yeah,
Like
I think that's
I'm not saying he's not gonna like catch a pass or anything. I'm not saying he's a bad play because I think he's gonna get zero. I just think he's a bad play because a lot of people are gonna be on him.
yeah, typically right, right. And I think the stipulation is like he would be under five, almost like probably 1 or 2% owned on like literally any Sunday slate, but a 1 game slate, everyone flocks to the people that go under the radar. So then they lose all their value of being underplayed. So I totally get that. Do
No,
you
I get what you're saying there. I think you just got to be mindful of it and kind of the type of lineups you're playing somebody like that in. I get
yeah.
like it's just so simple. What other like I can tell you what people are gonna do. They're gonna play Kelsey. They're gonna play Mahomes. They're gonna play him. And like that's fine, do that, then go all in Chiefs and play like a 5-by-1. That's another thing I'm gonna be doing a lot is a
Yep.
lot of 5-man stacks.
Yep. So I was gonna say, pivoting off kind of like what makes sense, real quick, what like 30 seconds, give me like a crazy but could happen captain MVP with like a couple pieces.
Yeah, so sorry, I know you want me to keep this short, but I have to explain that DraftKings and FanDuel are just inherently different games when it comes to Showdown.
Oh, sure.
Because on FanDuel the prices don't change. If you use somebody in MVP, his price is the same as if you put him in the flex. There's no
Right.
price up to play a guy at the captain. So it is a little bit different,
Mm-hmm.
which is why in FanDuel like you'll never win with like one of these off the wall captains.
Mm-hmm.
Um like for me, a guy that I think could just absolutely go under the radar in this game for some reason, I guess, would be Juju. Um
Yeah. Yeah.
he hasn't been good. Um, he's not one of the first couple names that comes to mind when you think of these two teams, but his role in this offense in a 1 game sample size, um, I could just see him having a big day.
Yeah.
So that's more FanDuel because you can't get crazy with the captain play because you're just burning money at that point because how the salaries work and all that
Mm-hmm.
kind of stuff. Um, but Juju at captain, I do actually like that one. But again, it's tough. That actually might be more of a DraftKings play because with these guys, I don't know on FanDuel how you could not play one of the 2 Chiefs guys or one of the 3 Eagles guys.
Yeah, that makes some sense. It does make more sense on DraftKings because Juju's price at captain is just so ridiculously cheap.
Yeah, and like it's for me, a lot of it's always, and I've been playing him a lot this year. It's the offense, it's the ownership, projection percent of rosters.
Mm-hmm.
It's all of that. It's not one thing that I like, oh, he got this many targets last week. He's a good play. In these types of island spots, 2 weeks to prepare, he's just a guy that if the Chiefs win, they got to get something from one of these guys. And against the Bengals, it was Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Mm-hmm.
You think it's him again, play him. But a lot of people are going to play him because it's what they just saw.
Right. Yep.
So, um, yeah, I think him and Juju are very effective in different ways. So, um, yeah, I like the spot for him, I guess. Who would be your kind of off the wall?
It's not really like that off the wall, but picking a Eagles running back, whether that be Miles Sanders or maybe a little bit of a dart throw with Gainwell. It would obviously just come down to who scores the touchdowns when they get down there. But I think that's a good way to get off Hurts, get off Smith, get off Brown, get off Goddard, right?
Yeah. So you're saying just fade Philly and play one running back or two, or
Yeah, or maybe now that I think about it, maybe even like just attack the Eagles run game, and go like Sanders at captain with Gainwell and Hurts,
yeah,
and then maybe like two Chiefs receivers in the Eagles defense, something like that.
yeah. For you, when you kind of approach your portfolio, as I call with lineups,
Mm-hmm.
would you say you kind of uh build each individual lineup with a different game script in mind, or do you kind of do what I do, which is you pick how you think the game's going to go and build all your lineups around that kind of one script?
Yeah, I think sorry, I'm not sure which one you said first or second, but I go with kind of building for a few scenarios.
Yeah.
And when that scenario hits, I know I'm gonna like double, triple, maybe quadruple my money, but it's
Mhm.
not gonna be like the winning lineup.
Right.
Now, however, it is a Super Bowl. This isn't like a full Sunday slate, so I don't know. Maybe I do pick a core and make three lineups and just alternate like two or three pieces. Um, it's a different animal, so I'll have to put some thought into that.
Yeah, I think this would be a spot where I yeah, I'll probably end up playing a different combination of players in almost every team with this one, just because I could see Eagles winning by two scores.
Mm-hmm.
I could see the Chiefs winning by two scores. Like if they get up early and they force Hurts into more pass heavy situations, they can't run the ball as much,
Mm-hmm.
and they just kind of get them out of their game. That's all it takes on any given day. Like the Eagles have been so dominant this year, especially with Hurts playing. They lost one game.
Right.
Um, but as you saw against Washington that night, they kind of just took them out of their rhythm. On any given Sunday, you do that one game, Chris Jones, Frank Clark, they make one play early, and it kind of flips the game. So I guess that's my last question for you would be, what do you think? You think the Eagles are gonna win? I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say you're like a 7.5 to 8 out of 10 on the Eagles. I don't. You can say if that's accurate or
Yeah,
not. But
yeah,
how do you see them winning most of the time?
they're gonna
Close game, or do you kind of see
no,
them?
no, they'll control the game. They're gonna run it right down their throats. Multiple rushing touchdowns, that kind of game script.
Yeah, then I love kind of that lineup you just threw out there with
Mm-hmm.
playing for the running game for sure.